Hello, I'm Mark Ells, Town Manager in Barnstable, and I'm here to provide you with my community update for this week. We continue to move forward with our recovery, uh, you know, relative to the COVID virus. We continue to see our numbers hold flat in Barnstable and in Barnstable County. That's a good thing. They do fluctuate from time to time, but additional positives are somewhere between, perhaps 1 and 3 a day. Many weeks, we have none. So that's a good sign. The fact that you all are out there following the guidance relevant to personal distancing, relevant to wearing a mask, certainly good hygiene relevant to washing hands, and in general, just taking responsibility for your actions. It is greatly appreciated, and it lets us continue providing service and programs to you, because without it, it could be hugely problematic. We had a very interesting meeting on Wednesday. I attended by Zoom, and it was with our superintendents from across the Cape, town managers and town administrators from across the Cape, members of health departments from across the Cape, and pediatricians. And it was led by our pediatrician, Dr. Rudman, here in Barnstable. And the discussion was going back to school and appropriate sampling that might occur, and really whether it should be a reactive type of sampling or a preventative type of sampling, that sampling to see if you do have the COVID virus. There are a few different approaches across the Cape. So besides talking about, okay, what is a good test and what is not, and what is representative and what is not, we wanted to understand, okay, who's doing what, and is there conflict, and will there be confusion by our residents of our communities as a result of this? And there are different approaches. I can tell you in Barnstable, the school superintendent has put forward the plan relevant to opening school for the fall winter season here. And it's going to be a mix. It's going to be in class for the younger grades, and a mix of in class and online remote for grades 4 and up. So I would encourage you as community members, but specifically parents, you should have gotten an email at this point that told you what you're doing and which cohort your kids will be in if you're in the upper grades. And if you haven't seen that, please reach out to your schools. And then if you want any changes, you should reach out to the principal of the school, because the principal of the school is the one who will engage you in that discussion and see what options you may have. So I would encourage you to do that as soon as possible, because students begin on September 16th with remote learning, and that'll continue through September 25th. And then students begin in class learning after September 28th, and that'll be for a reduced day. So they're only going 4 hours initially, and that'll go to full-time as of October 13th. I'd also encourage you to stay tuned when my community update's done, because our superintendent will give an update on how they're progressing on their plan. So we stay diligent in making sure that when we're ready to move forward with our schools, and that when our students go back, they're safe, and hopefully can have a good year of learning ahead of them. It'll be different, certainly, but so isn't everything that we're doing, trying to move forward during this recovery phase. Voting, last community update, I shared with you the 3 different ways you can do it: by mail, you can do early voting, and then you can do it the traditional way. Our primary is on September 1st. The primary is on September 1st, and your normal voting locations will be open, and you can do it the traditional way. So I just want to let everybody know that that's occurring. I also want to remind everybody that this weekend is a mass sales tax holiday. So if you're interested in that, you should go in and look at it. The tax holiday is on the 29th and 30th. So if you're interested, take advantage of it. Shifting subjects, we're also in a drought. We've had a very dry summer this year. And if you haven't noticed or received notice, we ask that you conserve water, especially irrigation related water, and just be aware that we are in drought conditions. You should certainly check as we move later into the season what you're doing outdoors. And there certainly are restrictions relevant to what we do outdoors, both watering and both something that could cause fire. So I think it's important that you know we have a drought, that you do all you can to conserve, pay attention to the communications that come out from our water districts. They are extremely knowledgeable and helpful on the subject, and your support in this will help us get through this dry season, and hopefully, I don't want to have too much rain, certainly at any point, but an appropriate amount is needed, and hopefully we'll see that at some point. At this point, I'll stop my community update, and I hope you can stay tuned to listen to our superintendent, and I thank you for listening.
Good day, everyone. This is Superintendent Meg Brown with this week's update on reopening our schools for the fall. In this update, I'm going to cover where we are with cohort assignments, talk a little bit about phase 1 of our reopening plan, which begins Monday, August 31st. I want to provide some information on masks for in-person learning, the importance of updating student contact information, guidance around daily home screening for students once in-person learning begins, ventilation in our schools, and safety data sheets for our sanitizers and cleaners, and then talk about next steps. We're processing our cohort assignment requests that parents and guardians have made during this week. Remember, this is the window of time to request a cohort change. That survey closes today in terms of if, as a parent or guardian, you are requesting a cohort change. If you haven't seen the survey or aren't able to access it, it is on our district website under the reopening tab. You can find the survey there. We've received more than 580 requests this week for changes to cohorts, so we are processing and reviewing each of those requests at the building level. Building principals are doing that work this week. Most of the requests are within the A and B cohort models within our hybrid model. So in other words, a student may have been assigned A and a parent or guardian is requesting B, or vice versa. So we're taking a look at those. I do want to say that changes between and among cohort A and B in our hybrid models will be difficult to make. Again, principals are reviewing those on a case-by-case basis, but we are bound by the actual seating capacity that we have in a school in terms of how many students we can physically accommodate. We have far more requests for students who are in cohort B whose parents would like them in cohort A. We won't be able to grant all of those requests, but again, principals at BUE, BIS, and the high school are reviewing those. We've had a significant number of cohort change requests in and out of cohort D. Remember, cohort D is our remote-only cohort. We are automatically approving those requests. In other words, if your child is in cohort D, was initially placed in cohort D, and you want in-person learning for your student, that request will be automatically approved. Principals, if you're in a hybrid model, will need to determine whether your child would be placed in cohort A or B. And if you were initially assigned in-person learning and have changed your mind and would like your child into cohort D, which is remote only, that, again, those requests are automatically approved. again, the emphasis for our review is more around cohort A and B at this time. We do have more requests to leave cohort D and return to in-person, which is impacting our ability to grant any new requests for cohort C. So again, that's all that work is well underway. We will finalize assignments on Monday, August 31st, in terms of cohorts, and we will send confirmation out to all parents and guardians next week just to confirm which cohort your child is in. We're going to, once those cohorts are finalized on Monday, we need to remain or stick with those cohorts because we need to assign classroom teachers. We'll begin the work of assigning classroom teachers next week, and we'll notify families of their child's teacher on September 8th. Our phase 1 of our reopening plan begins Monday, August 31st. Our educators and staff are going to engage in 8 days of synchronous and asynchronous professional development. They'll be reviewing and learning about our protocols for health and safety, remote learning, and behavioral health. They'll also spend some time on site in schools to review our school-based protocols. Those protocols include everything from physical distancing to healthy hand hygiene, to traffic patterns in the school, to arrival, dismissal, what to do if there's a symptomatic child in the classroom. All of those protocols are being reviewed with our educators and staff, and some of that work needs to be done in person. So that's really phase 1 of our reopening plan. Our educators will also be in person for 2 days during phase 1 to set up their classrooms and some additional preparation. We've posted on our website this document that describes what type of mask is okay. So it's posted on our website. We've also posted it on our Facebook page. You'll see here what is acceptable and not acceptable. We are emphasizing that face mask has to have at least 2-ply material, and that we're asking our families to provide masks for your children. If your child forgets theirs or it becomes unusable, we will have masks available at school. So just to review, the acceptable masks are those that are store-bought or handmade, and they must fully cover the nose and mouth, secure under the chin, and be secured with ties or ear loops. It must be made with 2-ply material, or disposable surgical masks are appropriate as well. What's not acceptable, because they don't protect they don't sufficiently protect or meet our health or safety guidelines, are bandanas, gaiters, or any masks with valves. In last week's update, I referenced the need to update your child's contact and health information. This is critically important. This is a once-a-year process. It enables us to have accurate information such as addresses, phone numbers, emergency contacts, and medical needs. The information update is an online electronic process. You will need to know your student's ID number and enter their date of birth. If you're not aware of your student's or child's ID number, we indicate here where you can, some of the places you can find it. It's on their report card for grades 4 through 12. It would be on last year's schedule for a high school student. So you will need to enter that. If after you try and look in those 2 places, if it's not available, feel free to call your child's school and they can assist with your child's student ID. Again, please take the time to fill this out. This year, more than ever, we need to be sure that we have accurate information, both for if a situation arises at the school where we need to get into immediate contact with parents or get some information out, and certainly understand your child's current health needs. When we begin in-person learning on September 28th, as scheduled, we are asking families to do home screening prior to sending your child to school. This includes checking your child's temperature every day before school. If you do not have a thermometer, can't get a thermometer, or need a thermometer, we ask that you check in with the school nurse. We will have some available to distribute to families who are in need of a thermometer. If your child has any of the following symptoms or had close contact with a positive COVID-19 case, do not send your child to school and inform the school nurse. You'll see here on this slide the list of symptoms that we are indicating a child cannot come to school with any of these symptoms, and our school nurses are there for families to talk about the symptoms and next steps. So if your child has these symptoms when we begin in-person learning, again, we can't emphasize enough, please don't send your child to school. Call the school nurse for some problem solving and next step. We will have our classrooms designed so if your child needs to stay home due to illness or COVID-19 exposure, they will be able to engage in remote learning right away with us. This past week, CDC, as you may know, came out with some information or some new guidance about testing. We are following the Massachusetts Department of Public Health guidance, which has not changed. And that states that anyone who shows any COVID-19 symptoms, even if those are mild symptoms, so the individual should get tested. So I won't read the whole slide here. I'll just leave it up for a second so that you can look through that. We are working closely with Cape Cod Healthcare, our district physician, Dr. Katie Rudman, and other pediatricians across the Cape to understand our current testing availability and capacity. And we're pleased to learn that at the end of September, Cape Cod Healthcare will have an additional 13 testing sites. The county also has assured us that they are able to assist with testing should we have an incident in a school where we need testing. So we continue to have conversations about both reactive testing and proactive testing, and I'll continue to provide that information through our weekly updates. Yesterday, Barnstable County released the following data. You can see this is the data that we monitor on a daily basis to understand new cases in the county, both confirmed and probable. You can see on the right-hand side of the slide that we continue to stay in single digits in terms of the number of new cases. Again, we look at this information on a daily basis. This is one of the metrics that will guide our reopening plans as we proceed through the phases. We've had some questions about ventilation in our schools. There's a lot of text on this slide. I apologize for all the words, but I did want to capture where we are in terms of ventilation. We have conducted independent air quality study for each of our schools. Those reports are due next week. We're committed to transparency in all of our work around reopening. As those reports become available, we will post them on our website. I anticipate being able to address our independent reports in next week's update. So I just want to run through some of the information here. Schools with automated HVAC systems, so that includes Barnstable High School, the Intermediate School, BUE, West Villages, and the Enoch Cobb Early Learning Center will operate with open dampers to provide as much air as possible. This is, as we reopen schools, I think the simplest way to say it, this is all about getting fresh air into our schools on a regular, frequent basis. So that is our goal. Schools without automated HVAC systems include High West, Centerville, the Intermediate School, and BWB. They're going to operate with a combination of mechanical ventilation system and open windows so that we can maintain maximum ventilation throughout the school. All of our HVAC filters are in the process of being upgraded to the highest density filter that can be accommodated for each unit. And in places where our HVAC system cannot maintain 6 fresh air exchanges per hour or 20 cubic feet per minute per person of fresh air, we're going to provide and maintain air purifiers and or install and maintain window fans to create a continuous air exchange in all of our classrooms and in all of our workspaces. I know parents and staff and educators are interested in learning more about what the contents are of our cleaning and sanitizing products. So that information, again, is available on our reopening page. If you go to our reopening page and click on safety data sheets, you'll see that information listed there. We have been able to identify, our facility staff identified a natural cleaner, which has been purchased for use in schools. That information is also available as well. I want to thank our Barnstable Teachers Association. This week, the district and BTA reached an agreement on reopening plans and conditions for the return of school. Specifically, thank you to Brooke Steich, Keith Caldwell, and Mike Smith for representing the needs of BTA members and working collaboratively with us to reopen schools. I know there's been much media attention given to teachers' unions and negotiations and the safe return to school. We met for close to 50 hours on drafting an agreement, which was ratified by both the Teachers Association and the school committee this week, that guides our reopening for school this fall. Next steps, please be on the lookout for cohort confirmation next week. That'll be coming via email to parents and guardians. We continue to work on transportation. This week, bus passes were provided to students in grades K through 3 who meet our mandated requirement for transportation, and that is they live outside of 2 miles from their school. So bear with us while we continue to work on transportation. Again, we can only fit about 23 students on a bus, which is limiting our capacity to provide transportation, but we're trying to work through that. We know that's important to our families that bus transportation is provided. So thank you for your patience as we continue to figure that component out. We've ordered significant numbers of technology devices, including Chromebooks, Wi-Fi hotspots, and other technology for both students and staff. We are experiencing some issues in delivery, sort of the supply chain of getting those devices to us in a timely fashion. I'll continue to provide in my updates where we are in that process. So more information to come. We know we need to provide some students with Chromebooks. We need to get some Chromebooks back so that we can refresh and work on them and issue some new Chromebooks as well and other technology. So again, more information to come on that. We want to be able to ensure that our students have the devices they need as they begin the remote portion of their learning with us. If you have school-specific information, please continue to contact your building principals. Building principals are drafting their own reopening plans with very school-specific rituals and routines outlined in their own reopening plans, which would include such things as what does drop off and pickup look like at the beginning and the end of the day, as an example. As those are finalized, we'll post those both on the school website as well as our reopening portion of our website so that parents can go and see in particular what their child's school is doing for rituals and routines in relation to reopening. With that, please continue to check our website for continued updates on the reopening. Anytime we have new information, such as the mask information we put out this week, it is immediately posted on our website. And as I close, thank you very much for your patience and understanding as we continue to navigate reopening schools. We hope it's a smooth process. We know we're going to experience some bumps in the road as we reopen, and just thank our BPS community in understanding that we're working on different protocols and processes for opening, and appreciate your partnership in that effort. Thank you.